Good day, everybody, and welcome to the BitcoinZ core team meetup. It's going to be a little bit of everything, and we're just going to get straight into it. Enjoy. Good day, everybody, and welcome to the BitcoinZ core team meetup. It's going to be a...
So, first thing is, if you hit edit video, you can go to the live control room. That way you don't have the video playing back on you. All right, so first up is let's just do an introduction. Everybody just say who they are. They don't have to give any personal identifiers and kind of what they do for the community. So I'll start it off. I'm Equipool, as everybody knows me. I run equipool.1ds.us, and for the community, I was just kind of mainly leading the mining operation. Trying to coordinate with all the pools, donations, and whatnot. But then when I saw that there's a need for development, I picked up kind of some of the infrastructure and development. So I'm also taking care of some of that. We can go alphabetically. On my list, Alessandro, you're next.
Okay. Yes, I'm Whitewood in the team, and I'm the dev lead. Actually, we are working on an easy game that we think could boost the popularity of this coin. I am a former designer, and I started to look at crypto early this year, and I found very interesting things. So yeah, now I'm here. This is my first project on crypto. I think we can move on to the next one.
All right, next up is Crypto. I forget who that is.
Could be one of three people. I mean,
I don't know who that is, but I'll go. Just Crypto Rex. It's strange that my icon doesn't come up, but anyway, I've been on the project since it kind of started a couple days later, a few days later, maybe 5 days or so later. I got the first Block Explorer up and going in Quiddis, so I run the Block Explorer and try and enhance it as much as I can on blockhub.info. Obviously, United States. I'm in the Texas area. I've been in, I guess, I don't know. This is my first real crypto project that I'm on, but I've been in crypto since March of 2017. I started as a miner, mining ETH. So now I'm here, and I'm, as you can maybe see or maybe not see, I'm all over the place, trying to help everybody, direct everybody as everyone else is doing. So I'm glad to be here, and I want to thank everyone that is here actually as well, and all the work that we've done so far. It's been great progress, and we're just going to continue going forward. I think we're organizing very, very quickly, and there's going to be a lot ahead for the future. So.
all right. You want to go next? Or...
I can go next if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
My name is Ewout, aka Hikst, and I try to manage the social media team. I'll do the Facebook things of what we do, and I try to keep everyone updated on news and plans we are working on.
John Marie, you want to go next? I think you were just chat only. There you go.
All right. Do you want me to read it out?
Go for it.
Yep. So Jimmy Tangle, Jean-Marie, he says he's from France, he's 25 years old, he joined the BitcoinZ community in the middle of October and started to create a guiding website for BitcoinZ community and for those who will join the community later on. So he's a website developer and pretty good with coming up with ideas.
Okay, I believe Renewsit, you're next. You came in late, but your mic's not working. If you want to type something, you can read it. Scribbles, you can go next while he's typing.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Miles. I live in Suffolk, UK, and I joined the BitcoinZ community sort of end of November. Was here for a couple of days, didn't really contribute anything, and then boom, out the blue, Anthony left, chat was like blew up, and everyone was freaking out. So I felt like I sort of needed to step up along with the other people that sort of came forward. So I feel that's what all this dev team's done now. Everyone sort of stepped up, come forward, and we've actually made lots of progress in the last few days, and look forward to a good future with it. Started as a miner, and now I'm here helping marketing, accounting, and product development. Who's next?
I think Renewsit is still typing. Patrick, you want to go?
Yeah, why not? All right, so hey guys, I'm Patrick, and I'm running mainly like social medias like Facebook page, Facebook group, and I joined this community like beginning of October, and I really like this project. I just run a group to gather some people to speak about it, and now I'm here and I'm trying to help as much as I can, because I'm not really good at programming, so maybe at least I can try with running social medias.
All right, so Renewsit submitted something on Slack here. He said, my name is Matt. I joined in October. I don't remember when. First time in crypto, but I have a lot of experience with app dev and website dev and DevOps. Cool. So I think that's everybody. We can go ahead and move on to the next item in the agenda. Thank you guys all for being here. Let's talk about new releases that are coming up in this next week. I think most people are eager to hear more about what's happening. Before that, let me step back a little bit and talk about the past. For those that were here, when the coin first started, Crypto, I didn't skip you. We asked for you several times, but you never responded. Do you want to go ahead and say something?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I will help with the developing of wallets and websites and something on the backend, everything. So that's me. I joined BitcoinZ community maybe a month before this, and I joined the team few days before.
Nice. Okay, so previously when the coin first started, it was just people kind of jumping in and doing what they can. And Anthony stepped in and did a lot of work for the community. And personally, I'm guilty of this. Is I saw somebody that was very active, and so I kind of let him do as much as he can do. And I was really excited to see him do so much. But the unfortunate thing is, by letting one person do too much, he became too much of an asset. And he owned a lot of things. And he was donating a lot of money, and he was doing a lot of things, which is really appreciated. But what we allowed him to become was too centralized. And so I think very much in the favor of the community, there was a disagreement between him and the Andev, which is the guy who created the coin initially. And the disagreement led to Anthony wanting to step away. And when that happened, the price plummeted, people freaked out, and that's okay. And from that, where we've come to is a realization that we need to decentralize. One developer or one person stepping away from the community, or even a group stepping away from the community, should not affect the community too much at all. So I think a lot of good has come out of that experience, and now we're building a lot of developers. We're building a lot of different projects within the community, and everything is working in unison. So hopefully, as we decentralize more, if anybody decides to step away for any reason, it doesn't disrupt the stability of the community in any way. So with that, let's talk about what's coming up in the next week. Does anybody want to talk about kind of the state of the wallets, what's being worked on, what the progress is on those things?
Well, Renzo is typing that he's working on the My BitcoinZ wallet and migrating the backend across to his own server. So he's hoping to eventually decentralize. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and kind of chime in a little bit in addition to what he's saying to kind of help him with the voice. But he's been working a lot. Well, several people have been working on the migration of the wallet, and I think a lot of it is just planning out the resources that are required for it, and as well as looking at the code and stuff. So there are some people that are working on infrastructure. And yep, Renuzit is saying he wants. We're making sure that it's secure as well, and that it's trusted, which is very important for a wallet system, especially. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way the resources are spread out and who is running the actual servers that the My BitcoinZ wallet requires. So it's infrastructure, security, and to have a trusted setting.
Yeah, so with regard to the wallet, there's several steps involved. When we decided to take that on from Anthony, step one was getting it to run on somebody else's infrastructure. And for the most part, we've accomplished that. We still have some testing to go through to make sure everything's working as it should. The next step is something that we had not considered previously, which is decentralizing it. And basically, the idea is if we have multiple people running the wallet service that Android and iPhone wallets require, if one of those servers goes down, then the service should still continue to run. And so that's what we're planning on testing this next week to make sure that happens. In addition, when you sync something across multiple servers, there are security risks involved. And so we're looking into ways to make sure that if one gets compromised, it can be taken offline without affecting anybody else and different things like that. So there's a lot of things that are in progress with regard to the wallets.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. Also, I know there's a lot of maybe some panic mode that sets in when people are, trying to scramble to get their coins because they're in the My BitcoinZ wallet. In the community statement, we wrote in there that we'll do what we have to do to get those coins out of the way, and we don't foresee, at least now, any reason why they would stay stuck there. It just doesn't make sense. As we've always said, your coins do live on the blockchain. So as long as you have the keys and the necessary, I guess the necessary keys that you need to have in your seed phrases and your private keys, so on and so forth, you'll be able to access your coins. So I wanted to just put that out there and make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, the wallet service is nothing more than just a proxy for the blockchain. It's something that instead of your phone having to run a whole node, which would be too much and your battery would die constantly, the wallet service allows a server to run the node, and then all these wallets just talk to it. On that note, personally, I see the My BitcoinZ wallet as something that's great and convenient for mobile devices. But if you have a desktop, we really want you to run the full node, because the more of those that run, the more stable the whole network is. All right, if nobody else has any questions or any comments to make, we can move on to the next item, which is Explorers. CryptoX, you want to start that off?
Sure. So we have, of course, the blockhub.info Explorer is running on it's not an Inside Explorer, it's based on a different Inquisitus code base. And that one should be, I maintain that one myself. It's usually always up. It has some problems here and there. We have like 3 other Insight instances that I have listed, that we listed in the community statement. But we're still finalizing, which ones we're going to rely on, or how many we're going to have to be able to rely on. So it's going to be a spread out infrastructure. I think to that point, I think we should expect to see different domains that host the Inside Explorer as well. Beyond that, I don't know if there's anything to add. If anyone has seen anything about additional explorers that are out there.
So for now, as far as the Inside Explorers go, you are right. There's 3 different URLs right now that work for it, and that's great. But it's also weird that there's 3 different URLs. And so what I'd like to do is test some DNS load balancing to see if we can pick a domain and stick with it, and basically have multiple distribution of multiple servers running this Explorer. And when you go to this domain, you may hit any one of those servers. I've set up a Docker container, and Docker is basically a service that allows you to very quickly run something without having to set too much up. And so the goal with setting up that Docker container is so that anybody who has technical know-how can basically run a few commands, and they can host the Explorer themselves. And then we can, if we choose a domain and use that as the official domain, then we can add their IP to the domain, and then they'll start serving the Explorer to everybody. So I think we'd like more of that to happen, where we set up in a distributed manner for these services to run on multiple servers by just about anybody, and we're not reliant on any one person for any one service. And this is something that I don't think many companies or many cryptos have done. I know, Google has done stuff like this, but for a community to run a project that's distributed at its core is something new. So we're learning a lot as we go. So we kind of somewhat have stepped into the next point, which is choosing a website. We have several versions of a BitcoinZ website, everything from BitcoinZ.site to BitcoinZ.ph, and I think there's a couple more flying around. So in the same fashion as the Explorers, we're hopefully going to pick a domain and stick with it. If Anthony ends up giving us the BitcoinZ.ph, since that's been advertised everywhere, we will continue to make that the official one. And then if we update the website with whichever one we choose is the best or whatever. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with running multiple domains if people want to run their own service of something. But we do risk somebody rogue releasing some weird website under a BitcoinZ domain. So it's something that we kind of have to watch out for. And unfortunately, the internet being the way it is, if somebody decides to put up something that is not representative of the community on some sort of BitcoinZ domain or BTCZ domain, there's not much the community can do about it, other than releasing a statement saying this isn't an official site and it doesn't represent the community. So if you see something that makes the community look bad at a domain that looks like it's a BitcoinZ domain, just understand that it may or may not, well, if it's something bad, there's a chance that we have nothing to do with it as a community. And yeah, by all means, step into Slack and ask, and if somebody will give you an answer. We can catch up on some questions in chat.
Yeah, just to quickly say, we also can't support, if you're making games like gambling sites, we can't support that, because it could run us into legal issues in quite a few countries, because we can't stop underage gambling, for example.
I don't think we should support gambling at all. People, if they want, they can gamble like out of their own, but I don't think we should support it out as a community at all.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
It's because you can never trust who made the site, and like in the end just run off with all your coins. So that's like my input on it.
I agree with that. Beyond that, there's some other legalities that are involved, not just with gambling, but maybe other service industries, I'll just say. So we have to be very careful going forward with that, and I think we're going to clarify that even further in the white paper. We do have a code of conduct in there, so I want people to understand that, and we just have to make sure that we adhere to that. I do want to mention one thing about choosing the websites, going back to point C, 2C. I know that we also may try a Cloudflare approach to where maybe there's some rotation involved, so that may cost something once we figure out how that's going to work out. So it'll kind of maybe help in rotation and be able to point to different sites using Cloudflare. That was my understanding of how it could work. So we're exploring that as far as websites and how they're going to work and how many different ones we may have.
Yeah, if we go that route and we have just one site that is hosted on multiple servers, we'll make sure that all those servers are serving that one site. I think it'd be pretty bad if 3 or 4 people choose a different site and it's just to go to the domain, and every time you go to it, it renders a different site.
There is also a problem with domain. If people which owns the domain leaves, then you're losing everything as well.
Yeah, so on that note, one thing that I would like to see is whatever domains we choose to make official. So right now, everywhere is BitcoinZ.ph. And so if Anthony does pass that on to us, he mentioned he'd pass it on to me on the 28th. What I plan to do was create a separate account with a hosting provider or DNS service and move it to that. That's not my own. And that way I can pass those credentials on to multiple people. And then if one person leaves, other people will have access to that domain to manage it. But when it comes to running something for the community, you bring up a great point. My feeling on that is, if you want to help, please do. Everybody will really appreciate the help. But you should not help if you plan to make a profit off your help. You're giving your services to the community, and hopefully you're not looking for a profit. And disagreements happen. It's a fact. People disagree on things. And personally, the way I feel about it is if I get in a heated discussion or argument with somebody and I decide, you know what, I'm done with this coin, I'm moving on to something else. My personal morals, I would give up whatever I have access to and pass it on to the community, because the work that I've done is not for me, it's for the community. And so it's technically the property of the community. And I really hope that anybody else who donates their time, resources, or whatever feels the same way. I really appreciate that Anthony has given us time to transition away from using his services. And I think that he's setting a great example for everybody else. So as long as everything else moves great through the transition, I think that's a great example for everybody else to follow along.
I also can see people on chat asking for new exchange, and on the Slack all the time there's the same question where new exchange will come, and also they asking to do some fees for exchange and the stuff. And for me, like, my opinion is we shouldn't look for another exchange right now until we got a good product that we can sell, because anyway, if we will hit even Bittrex, it will not change anything. If we have nothing to offer, it will just do a small spike in the price and then it will go down again. So first we should focus on doing our product and then on looking for exchanges.
Yeah, I agree with that. We first need the purpose for the coin. And then on second, I don't think we should just pick an exchange. We have to do the voting system first and let everyone vote on the exchange.
Yep.
Because I see like a lot of people that are shouting, we should pay like 2 Bitcoins for this and 2 Bitcoins for that. And then you get like 2 types of groups. I think it should be fair and that we should have like a voting system implemented first before we do such a thing.
Yeah, I think once we get a good product going and we have our whole front end, core wallets sorted as well as MyBTC-esque wallets, then we can sort of move on to marketing ourselves and spending not only the community money on it, but also organization on the exchanges we choose. Because right now, if we go to an exchange, we are just going to spike in price and it's not going to really benefit the community at all.
Yeah.
In regards to the exchanges, I do want to point out that falling off an exchange that supports either the what to mine API, which we've already seen based on Cloudflare, makes us fall off that active list, so they say, and also on Blockfolio or tracking things like that. If there's no API, we fall off an exchange. It in other words, it kind of lessens our visibility from software that people use pretty commonly in the crypto space. So I'm never going to push an exchange. Oh yeah, let's just whatever exchange, because it just doesn't work. The community, I mean, just it's fair that it's not that way. But that is something to consider. I know there's a lot of other things we have to build on top of having, marketing something like we're saying. So just keep that in mind as well. That could be expected. And someone did mention about the halving, so I'm going to go ahead and mention that. The block reward halving is not going to happen until about 4 years, as it was originally intended in the code. There is a halving interval at block 840,000 that's written to the code that's been there since launch. So it's not going to happen until about 4 years. And I think if anyone has anything else to say on point C, we can move to point D.
I just want to quickly add on to that. Our core values that were set out from the Genesis block, from the launch of the coin, aren't going to change. So we're not going to edit the blockchain ever. That's sort of why this whole idea of the coin is. It's completely decentralized, completely community-based. Nobody can just decide, you know what, I want to change this now. We are going to halve it. It's just not going to happen.
Well, on that point, there's nothing to stop people from implementing these changes, but they can fork the coin. And we're not against somebody creating a fork of BitcoinZ, but they have to do so by creating a new coin and not calling it BitcoinZ. So that's the one requirement. But if you want to create a new coin and change parameters, then that's your right. You're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
Community has immutable parameters that are unchangeable and will never change. Back on the exchange, real quick. There's been a lot of chatter about are we going to build our own decentralized exchange? There's a lot of things we have to look into for that. There's, first off, building an exchange isn't something you can do in a week. It's something that a lot of people are going to have to get involved with, and we'd love to do it. But also there's legal issues that we have to work out. Running an exchange is technically a for-profit thing, so we have to see how that works with a community, and we don't want to run it out of a country where somebody who's running the service might get into legal issues. So we'd want it to be decentralized, but we also want to protect our members so that they don't end up going to jail just because they're running a node for this exchange. So moving on, how-tos.
So I added that in there because Jim Triangle he's already actually launched the initial portion of it on the BTCZ guides, and that's just going to be a combination of, I think what I'm seeing from the way it's coming out is that it is going to kind of be a go-to place for a lot of guides and a lot of listing of sites that BitcoinZ relies on. So explorers, social media links, anything that has to do with how we disseminate information and what the community relies on to go to for information. That's going to be a good site. So he did send me in a private message. I don't know if maybe he sent it out. I don't know, but he sent it to me, and I think it's a work in progress. It's looking really good. I know he's posted some screenshots, but that's a work in progress, and I think that is going to be a great platform for having trusted information be disseminated by the community, and also a platform for linking videos and guides, which is a lot of what we're going to be working on. I myself want to also create videos that involve some types of tutorials and helping the community. So we need a lot of that going on, and I think that's a good platform to have it listed. And I don't know if he's in the chat, so.
I, for one, am excited for that. We see a lot of the same questions come through Slack, and having a site that we could just link them to find out the information is going to be save a lot of time. Cool. That's great.
Yeah, he is here, and I think the other idea is to translate it to multiple languages. I think we have got quite a big Russian-speaking community. I za was my będziemy też dzielić twój website też. So we'll have that available for everyone, so it's accessible for everyone. And if you want to take part in translating, if you can, that will also be great.
Cool. So he pasted the link, and if you didn't see it, it's bitcoinzguiding.ovh. So go to that, and if you want to help translate or anything, please find us on Slack. Okay, so point 3, we have next week's projects. The first item on the list is clarifying the trusted sites and broadcasting them.
So that goes to the previous point that we're going to have a site that will list the sites that we rely on. So I know there's a bunch of different domains, as we mentioned earlier, and that's great because there's different people that have taken the initiative and are undertaking to create those sites for the community. But we do, have to, I don't want to use the word officialize, but I don't know what other word to use, but it's almost like, yes, that is a site that the community supports, and that is there is trusted information for the most part that is being disseminated by the community, and you have to, of course, use your judgment sometimes because we have to, there are people, we can't control them. Decentralization is something that you have to still be careful about, but that we can still create a trusted system.
Yeah, it would be good to have a site. I know we sent it out in the document we sent out earlier this week, but it would be good to have a site where people can go for a sitemap of BitcoinZ. Where can you go for a list of explorers? Where can you go for how-to guides and different YouTube channels where you can learn more? So it'd be good to kind of set that up and maybe that's something we put on our main site once we get that set up and make some decisions there.
Yep.
It is important for people to realize, though, that it is distributed, as CryptoRx says, and you can't trust everything that you see in a distributed site. So while we will make best effort to only promote things that we trust ourselves, we are relying on people to be good. And while somebody may be good one day, they may be bad the next. So always question everything. And even if it's something that we promote, if you see something malicious there or bad there, then question it. Just because we promote something doesn't mean it's forever going to be good. We can promote, an explorer one day, and then the next day somebody decides to post malicious files on there or something. So always question everything that you see, and that's just the nature of distributed, where nobody is really in charge of everything. It's kind of up to the community themselves and every person in the community to make sure everything is clean and everything is good. Next on the list is the MyBitcoinZ wallet infrastructure. And I think we already covered this pretty much, talking about we're working on setting it up. There's something called BWS, which is a service that the MyBitcoinZ wallet relies on. And right now it's hosted on Anthony's server, but we're working on creating a distributed network of servers that will run that service. We are not huge fans of it just because it's not distributed, and it relies on a specific set of servers. And that kind of goes against the core of BTCZ. Zcash, which is what BitcoinZ is forked off of, is working on ways to get various things running on mobile, and there's a chance that we may be able to port that to BitcoinZ once they release some of this stuff. But for mobile, it's completely understandable. But for desktop, if you can, please run the full node. And we have links for that just about everywhere. It's on the GitHub page. There's been talk, and I don't know if this is going to be covered later, but there's been talk about some of the wallets, like it's not available for OSX, and the Linux wallet is throwing some errors, and that's all stuff we're going to look into. If you get an opportunity, say you're on Linux and you try to run the Linux wallet and it's not working, and if you have the know-how, please look into it and submit a pull request. We're happy to receive help from anybody that can help.
Yeah, we did cover that infrastructure earlier. Cloudflare was really what I wanted to point out, but I did already. If anyone else has anything to say, I would like to move on to point C. I think we're good. Are there any questions that are coming in from the other chats?
Yeah, I'm just working through YouTube chats. Everyone seems pretty happy with this.
Okay.
Just one guy mentioned if we could do a hardware wallet, and I was just going to add to that I think we are going to try and look into Trezor and Ledger. We did try it before with Trezor, but I don't think it really went anywhere. So we're going to open that avenue back up probably in a week's time or so, maybe 2. And for sure, that'd be a nice little thing to have.
Yep, absolutely. As far as the rewriting of the white paper, it's I guess it's not rewriting, it's adding, because it's really a live document and making sure that it makes sense, that it's clarified, there's no confusion, and also I think it could look better, and I know that there are 2 people that are working on. I know one of them was Jimmy, and another one was Whitewood. So, I guess I'm effectively almost asking for his help in that, because I don't think I let Whitewood know about that yet. But I would like to kind of make that look, with some headings and whatnot. So I'm gonna make the necessary changes, and I'll distribute that to who can help. Obviously, I'm not a designer. I don't design things, so I can't make graphics look good. But that was point C. That's all I want to say about that part. I think the donation page, crypto, is if he wants to mention anything about that. I don't think he's on mic. Okay, so it's in the works, and I believe go ahead.
I was gonna say, he spoke earlier. He may just not be at his computer right now.
Oh yeah, okay.
He's just got his mic muted. He says the donation page is in the works. Today there should be a beta release. So
yep, should be a beta release today. Today there should be a beta release, he says.
Sorry for the background.
Yeah, it's like BBC or something, or co.uk. Anyway, sorry. Voting system. This is a controversial.
Background noise.
Nah, don't worry about it. There's a very controversial, heated discussion every time we use the word voting system and the word fair. I think it's proven to be to require careful planning, because there are, as they say, different I don't know, exploitation vectors.
Yeah, we need to find the voting system that is implemented in a way that it makes people hard to cheat on.
Mm-hmm.
Since you can basically cheat on everything, but we need to make it as hard as for people to cheat on, and so that every vote is equal as well. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out a way how to do that.
So for those who are not aware of what issues you run into with voting systems, basically, how do you make sure that everybody only gets one vote? When it comes to the internet, that's a really hard thing to do. If you lock it by IP, somebody could go to their neighbor's house or go to McDonald's or use it on their cell phone and get multiple votes in. If you lock it by a wallet address, well, you can have multiple addresses on the wallet. And there's no real way on the blockchain that I know of, at least, to ensure that only one wallet or a wallet only votes once. So there's a lot of questions of how do you vote fairly. And as CryptoRx said, it gets heated. Some people want to vote based on, like we had the idea of, okay, let's do donation voting. We set up multiple wallet addresses, and whatever you feel strongly about, you vote for that by sending some BTCZ to that address. But there's questions of, okay, well, then do the rich get their way because they can send more? And so then we go back to, okay, well, we make it a limit of just by making a donation that counts as one. So it's more of a count of how many donations. Well, then how do you keep somebody from creating 100 different addresses and sending donations from 100 different addresses to get their way? So as you can see, it gets really complex and there's a lot of things to consider. And it's something that we're constantly working on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as well as potentially using the blockchain to make a voting system, we could also potentially use Slack. So if everybody got on Slack, we could have a bot set up to DM your password, and you could also use that to vote. So you have one vote per system, per person. Sorry, I've got all that background noise going on.
No problem. So for now, when we need to make decisions, because we haven't really needed to make huge decisions yet, we've been using Google Forms, and that seems to be working well for now until we build a better system. But I'm personally excited to build a system that is actually fair, because even Google Forms, you can cheat that to get your way. You can create a bunch of Google accounts.
I have 10 personally.
What's that?
I have 10 personally.
Yeah, so so it's not a perfect system, and unfortunately, there is no perfect system that exists yet. But we're working to kind of figure out what that system is, and then we'd love to build it. So if you have ideas on what that system could be, or if you'd like to help in any way, please contact somebody on Slack. But
we'll just kind of mention that someone just made an admission to how the scales are being tipped in the voting system. So I'm not going to mention any names. I'm kidding, MK.
And unfortunately, like, my concern with Slack voting is it's not decentralized. So
Yeah,
while yes,
well.
yes, people can vote through Slack and they've got one account, but how do you stop somebody from having multiple Slack accounts? Also, the results go to one service. So somebody is keeping track of all of those. Well, what if that somebody is malicious and they want to increase votes or modify the votes? And so there is no perfect voting system right now. And you see the same thing with elections for politicians. And you go and vote, you put your paper, write down which you choose on a piece of paper, and then it goes to a computer, and you assume nobody's modifying the numbers, but you don't know. And so a truly decentralized voting system, I think, probably has to live in the blockchain in some way. We just need to figure out how to do that. If no other questions, I think we're ready to move on. Cool.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Patrick, were you going to say something?
Yeah. Like, we have another problem, about which we are not talking at all. Okay, we're talking about decentralizing everything, but we are still not decentralized in mining. Like, Supernova has about 50% of global hash rate, so it's still not good. And people think that donation we are setting on Supernova in the settings, it goes to us, but it don't. It goes to Supernova. So if you, we also have a of pools that are supporting BitcoinZ community with donating fees to our community. You can join one of them, or either join the other pool than Supernova, because as I told, it's not really decentralized. We are talking about decentralize everything, but we should start from decentralizing like basics, like mining.
I completely agree, and this is something that I'm heavily involved in since I run a pool. And basically, yes, Supernova has a lot of the hash power for the community, which is actually dangerous because it makes us susceptible to the 51% attack. And basically, for those that don't know what it is, when one entity controls most of the hash power for a coin, they can manipulate transactions and do things like a double entry attack or whatever it's called. And basically they can modify transactions and double transactions. Personally, I've looked into it, but it's very complex stuff. And from what I understand, which may be wrong, hopefully isn't, it's not necessarily a supernova that would have to be malicious. I think a miner on supernova could actually attack the coin because they have too much hash power. And basically, the miners are submitting shares, and these shares are basically hashes of the transactions and different information like that. And so if a miner wants to attack the BTCZ community, they can do so using Supernova's network. So it's something, Supernova may look like it's very profitable just because there's a lot of blocks being found, but you're getting a very small share of that compared to the smaller pools. And a perfect community would have, equal hash power distribution across all pools. And like I said earlier, Supernova does not donate. And I've personally brought this up with the guy who runs Supernova, and he claimed he does donate, but he said he posted it in the Bitcoin Talk thread, and I couldn't find it. When I asked him to send me a link to it, he never did. So definitely, I'm maintaining a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet with a list of pools and how much they donate and what their fees are. I post it on Slack frequently. I'll post it in the actually, I have already posted it in the Bitcoin Talk thread. So please, if you're mining on Supernova, until they start donating, please stop mining there and move to somebody who is donating. We actually have a pool at pool.btcz or bitcoinz.site that does not have a pool fee, and they donate 5% to the community. And you might see that and think, wow, 5% is a lot, because it's technically still a fee. Every BitcoinZ that you pass on to the community through a donation is an investment in the community itself. And as you invest in the community, that allows us to do things that will eventually increase the price of the coin. And so, those people that don't donate, you're keeping the coin where it is as far as price. And the more people donate, the more we can do for the coin and eventually increase the price. So it's just look at it as an investment. And the return is, there's no potential on the return. It could go to the moon, as people say. So while you make less coins by donating, you're actually increasing the value of the coin, and therefore you're actually making more, whatever your currency is.
Add on to that, people are asking why they should move away from Supernova. And like you just said, great point. The reason you make and you think Supernova is so great is because you get loads of payouts because you find loads of blocks, but I'm not sure this was mentioned, but it averages out. So a small pool will earn you the same as Supernova will over the long term. And if you are donating 5%, that will help out the community massively. And it means we can get onto exchanges, we can work on better projects, and it will increase the value in the coin eventually. Oh, and one more thing to add. Если русский, можно, пожалуйста, начинать говорить на английском, это будет нам помогать очень много. Спасибо.
Anybody else have anything to add on the pools? All right. Let's move on to marketing.
So I listed something that's now looking a bit complicated here, but I had proposed yesterday an allocation of BTCZ per week. So this is just an idea that was formulated yesterday evening. So I mean, there's a lot of things to be discussed. This is not in stone. This is not something we're going to do. Anything that we do like this, especially having to do with community funds, has to go through a vote. But I had proposed maybe 100,000 BTCZ per week for Twitter, YouTube, and faucets. So to break down a little bit, Twitter campaign, X amount per tweet, and have a max budget of 5,000 per week. And YouTube, 5,000 BTCZ for coverage of a video, minimum 1K subscribers, allocate 45,000 per week for 9 YouTubers, and then a faucet of 50,000 BTCZ per week. Now, I don't expect you to do the math right now because it's hard to do, just me blurting it out that way. But these are just ways. This is trying to set in motion some ideas to give back to the community, because we have had, thankfully, an overwhelming amount of donations. And me personally, for the project and the community, I feel that we have to do something to start giving back to the community that's given so much. And it's just a way to get the community, more involved, and, to start also, it also works in a marketing standpoint as well. Now, I understand that there are some other stepping stones, and there's also some other, there are also other items that we need to complete, that we have to, make a little bit more structured, and that's products, and everything else that we need to do to actually have a use case. And those types of things need to come together before we actually spend any money in marketing something like this. So that's part of what I've proposed, and there's going to be a different, there's going to be many different ways that we can go about doing this, but it should involve something that gives back to the community from the donations. And I'll go ahead and let marketing talk a little bit more about the things that we need to probably put in place before we actually spend money doing that, and spend some efforts doing that.
Yeah, for sure. There's no point spending money and time putting money out there if we actually haven't got a finished product. So if we've got problems with our wallets, or people are still, unsure about what's actually happening, it's not going to market that well, and we're basically wasting our community funds. So we're going to hold out on marketing just for a little bit longer until we've got all the core features and everything we sort of need as a basis to work from. If that's all right with everyone.
Yep, perfect. And that's completely understandable. But to get the ideas running, we need to think about how we can start giving back. But yes, I do agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
It could even affect us. It could even affect us negatively if we start marketing and we haven't got a finished product, and there's still the sort of FUD going about what's actually going to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving to the next point.
Actually, I think Patrick had some questions.
Okay.
Yes. I got a lot of people which are writing to me at private message, mainly at Facebook. Cause I'm running this Facebook group, so they just writing directly to me. So people don't see the difference between Zcash forks and like a normal Bitcoin or other coins than Bitcoin. So when you have a fork of a Zcash and you're running a wallet, you cannot encrypt it. It works like completely different, and people was used to using this small My BitcoinZ wallet, which was quite easy to understand, and they were just backing it up with 12-word sentence, and that was it. And now people don't really know how they should back up the wallet, and they don't know how to encrypt it. So there's also few things that they should understand, like basics of the Zcash forks. So we should, in my opinion, we should explain how to do proper backup of the wallet, how it works, and I think that's it.
Okay, I'll add to the encryption as far as Zcash, or the Zcash code base. From my understanding, as far as password protecting the wallet, if that's what you're mentioning as well, I think there are concerns with the way encrypting it would limit some other security measure, that it kind of outweighs the benefit of encrypting it. So that's why that happens. But that's why that's the way it is. Well, and I have a link that I'll send out that explains that. But more to your point about the explaining how backing it up works and how the private keys work. We will put out a guide that explains that. It's very beneficial. But to touch on it a little bit, the way the Zcash wallet works, it involves private keys, and the way the MyBitcoinZ it works on a different protocol for what they call HD wallets, or hierarchical deterministic. It uses something called BIP32, which I don't understand exactly what it is, but it uses a 12-word seed. So those are the two differences in backing that up. So if you use MyBitcoinZ, you need to use a 12-word seed, and if you use the so-called swing wallet or the more core wallets, you're going to have a private key. And yes, we will put things out there a little bit more visible on how that works. And I also want to reiterate that there are ways to get your coins out of the MyBitcoinZ wallet if you do run into an issue with, you can't transfer them, but you do still have to have your 12-word seed for that.
So yes, we'll work on guides for the different operating systems to make sure that we don't leave anybody out. It's just something that is on our to-do list. Probably after next week, we'll get onto that. Unless somebody's able to create those guides, something like that, you don't have to be a techie to create a guide. So if you know how to do the backups on Windows or on Linux and you want to create a quick guide for that, please do, and then we can share that with everybody. All right, we can go back to marketing. Did we have anything else we wanted to add for that?
Not for me, for myself. I think we're good.
All right, so future roadmap ideas and what some projects could be. This is definitely an open-ended thing. There's talk about, actually, I don't know what Barter Dex is. Go for it.
So Barter Dex, very early on in the project, when a lot of us, and we're still doing this, we're out there, contacting exchanges. One of the ones that attracted us was Barter Dex, and that's because of the way what they call XCAT exchange. So there's atomic swaps or on-chain swaps of coins. So they have developed a system, and they're working, pretty diligently on making it user-friendly, and they've made a lot of progress. We are listed there, but it's not as simple to use for the type of, I guess, targets that we have in the larger, newcomer audience that we're also targeting. But I'm continuing testing. I'm keeping up with what they've done so far. They've done a lot. They have a GUI interface, a GUI interface to be able to swap coins. So basically, the idea is that you have the blockchain of, let's say, BitcoinZ, and then you have let's say the Bitcoin blockchain or Zcash or any other coin that you want to choose, and you'll be able to swap them using their platform. And like I said, they've made a lot of progress, but we're continuing to follow their progress so that we can hopefully be active on their decentralized exchange. Any questions about that?
If there's no other questions, we can move on.
Oh yeah, and the guides are being worked on. I just wanted to mention that.
And also, if you want to contribute to making guides, just DM like CryptoRex or DM Scribbles or someone that's on the chat. So we'll let you then get in contact with the other people, or you can try and find them directly. Like Jimmy Triangle, sorry, he's making the community website. So DM those sort of people, and you can definitely get involved.
I do want to mention there's a lot of channels in Slack and on Discord. So if you have a specific subject that you want to talk about, general is just the initial channel that people, when they join, they get into. But if you're interested in talking about everything from wallets to mining to Linux to exchanges. There's specific channels for all that stuff. So if you go into one of those and you post a message in there, you're much more likely to get somebody that's relevant to respond.
Yep. I have a comment here from Renewsit that we do have an advantage over Bitcoin, that we can do smaller transactions with lower fees. Encrypted transactions are optional, but harder to do, he says. Going to move on to...
Wait, back on the Slack discussion real quick.
Okay.
A lot of people have seen that communication in Slack has gone down, and that's basically just in general. For the most part, it's gotten a lot quieter in there. I want to clarify the reason for that. It's not because people have stopped working or people have stopped talking. What we've done is to help those working on the various different projects, to help keep them focused, we've created private groups in Slack that they can talk amongst themselves without random people jumping in and asking questions or just completely derailing whatever conversation they're having. So most of the discussions now are happening in these private channels. They're private for the sole purpose of allowing people to stay focused. They're not private to keep anybody out. You know, if you want to join a private channel to help with development of something, marketing, coding, infrastructure, whatever, feel free to ask to be added to these communities, and we'll add you. The only reason we're doing these private channels is just so people can stay focused. The side effect of that, though, is there's a lot of the discussion that previously was in general, and people were just, you know, spamming that with all these different conversations about all these different things. Well, since those conversations have gone elsewhere, general has become a lot quieter. And so people see that as the coin is dying or people aren't doing anything. Well, that's completely the opposite. People are actually a lot more productive now. You just don't see it. So I just want to reiterate the fact that, you know, we are still active. There's a lot of people working on a lot of different things. Just because you're not seeing all the conversations doesn't mean it's not happening. So moving on, the next thing we want to talk about was integrating into e-commerce and partnerships with storefronts or different companies like that.
So regarding that, there has been several persons that have reached out. One of them we should be hearing from soon, that contacted me over Bitcoin Talk, and it involved, he's also a PR person, and he also talks about integrating potentially with another project that he's working on that involves, it's a company that he says he called it an official business to use BTCZ for payment. So I don't have any further details on that, but I wanted to add that just to give an idea of the types of things that are coming to the community to implement. So I hopefully I'll hear from him soon, and we can start kind of working out how something like that would work. But it's been a hot topic for BitcoinZ, and we also are we also need to work on partnerships, and that's one thing that these types of things develop, partnerships with other e-commerce sites and storefronts to integrate. I had someone else, mention, WhatsApp, and there's just so many different things we need to integrate. We have to have a plan, obviously, to do that, and we have to have something outlined. It's not just, well, yeah, just contact them, whatever, and it's just going to work. So it takes time, but it's something that I think that the team is focused on, that we're all focused on getting done, integrating e-commerce.
On that note, somebody mentioned in Bitcoin Talk that Africa is going through a movement where people are moving from using fiat to cryptocurrency, and that this is a great opportunity to integrate with real world businesses and whatnot. If you have connections and can help in any way, get in touch with people or businesses, feel free to take the initiative to communicate with them. If you're not comfortable with doing that, then let us know and we'll communicate with them. But we definitely rely on the community's connections and the people they know to get in touch with all these different service providers to integrate in all these different ways. And this is another thing that requires donations. You know, it's not, some of these services are going to require money for them to integrate with us. And so the more you donate, you know, it's not just paying for more exchanges, but it's actually going to pay for a lot more than that. And this could be one of those.
Yeah, just to add on to that, if we could potentially, it might need to be an actual fundraiser, develop a system where we can use our blockchain technology, our network, for payment transactions inside of the African nations like Zimbabwe, for example, which has gone through extreme hyperinflation, and other African and Asian countries, and even South America as well, with the problems and collapses of some countries over there. If we could integrate and help out businesses in those locations, as well as everyday people, that would be a great sort of market to look into, and marketing's definitely paying attention to the African market, for sure.
On that note, this wasn't actually on the agenda, but it's a great point. We have received a lot of questions of this 25 or 21 billion coin supply, and the supply is too high, and we need to, you know, cut the supply down. This is exactly the reason why the supply is so high. It's so that we can actually, you know, give BitcoinZ to the whole world. You know, think of how many people exist on the world. We need to be able to allow all those people to use BTCZ, and the supply is high enough that you're not going to deal with 0.00000001. The value may not hit 7,000 or 8,000 per BitcoinZ, even that's fine. That's not necessarily what we want. We want to be able to use this in the real world. We want people to be able to use it every day, not just to trade or to mine, but to actually make transactions in their everyday life. And the supply being so high allows us to do that without it getting really complex and having to have micro transactions to the degree of, you know, the 8th decimal point or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to mention that real quick because that question has come up a lot of why is the supply so high?
Yeah, I think to add on to that is there's 1.2 trillion US dollars in circulation in public hands. So when you've got that sort of number and that's still worth something, I'm sure we'll be able to find our place with only 21 billion. So we'll move on to the next topic then.
Game development.
Yes, I'm here.
Before we go into game development, I want to mention that there's a blackjack game that's going around, and a lot of people are playing the blackjack, and some people are getting upset because they're losing their money. I want to point out that this isn't a game that was developed by the BTCZ community. I think somebody just set it up on their server and have passed it around, and it is gambling. I think we went over this, but yeah. I just want to reiterate, it is gambling, and it's not like the community didn't release this. So if you want to put money into that, that's your decision. And if you lose your money, that's also your doing. The community had nothing to do with that. They didn't develop the site, the game, or anything like that. But I'll let somebody else talk about what we are trying to do with game development.
Yes, so we are working on a game because we think that if we can create an environment where BitcoinZ can grow and involve any person of any age, we think that we can also have more how can I say more people involved in the coin, because through the game people could win coins here and there, and then they have to change these coins maybe with Bitcoin or another altcoin if they want to convert them to a fiat currency. We are working on this first game that is like Fruit Ninja, and then we will move on to another game, but for now this is this one. I also would like to say that anyone that have an idea to grow the community and make the coin to be known to more and more people, just come to the Slack and leave your ideas, because we need to find ways to make people interested in this coin. And I think that a game is one of the many ways. Creating services and various environments around it could help a lot. So yeah, this is my idea.
That's a great idea. Great idea. And to add on to that, any idea we have or any idea anyone has, do feel free to contribute it, because you're contributing it, and there's nothing that stops us from then listening to that and actually making a game. So, or something else. If you want to have us do an exchange, for example, just ask, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll see what the community wants to do as well.
All right, so moving on, let's talk about code of conduct real quick.
Yeah.
Cryptrix, you want to spark that?
Yeah. So I think we kind of touched on it earlier. There's a couple of things that we noticed early on and in the chats, and we kind of notice it sometimes going on. The topics that are discussed in the chat sometimes may or may not be, legal, or in some countries, and they may be legal in other countries. We have to consider that, and the amount and the type of conversations that we have. And early on, we did have some people also that were kind of just fighting with each other publicly. And although it's not directed at it's not directed at everyone. It's directed amongst those persons that are fighting, but that also creates a bad image for the community. So if we see it more often, obviously we're going to have to take measures to help alleviate that or mitigate that. But we do have to think about that we are a global community, that there are many, many different people involved, cultural backgrounds, their language, whatever you want to consider that comes with just being a human. We're going to see it, and that comes with community, and I think it's a great thing. I think it offers diversity, it offers a different perspective, and it really helps propel and empower a community. So if there is something going on, or there's anything that you need to point out or bring to anyone's attention that you can tell is always here, that we need to take some measures, please let us know. But we're also actively paying attention to what's going on and what we associate with as far as the community is concerned. Where I personally am not about just banning people and just banhammering everybody. I think it's about people have a right to express their opinions as long as they respect themselves and each other. So but it is also a legality issue because we're in so many different jurisdictions. So we could come into a situation where there is something being discussed that is not legal in one place and legal in another. And I think we just always be mindful of that. And I think people should understand that. And if we do have to go, like I said, and take other measures to alleviate that, we will do that.
Yeah, well put, well put.
Wah wah.
So next topic then, or we're going to move on to?
Yeah. I originally there was a structure that was suggested, and that was to have leads and community leads, or team only, and so on and so forth. I would like to make sure that everyone understands that everyone can be part of the community, and I think how you propel yourself into into what someone would see or perceive as a leader is just based on how much you do and what you do and how you're able to, you know, gather and rally your team. But there's no per se, you know, a lead, but we want to make sure that there's some organization. So when you label something a lead, it may misconstrue the way someone understands the way an organization works, but we want to make clear that everybody is supposed to have a voice and should have a voice in what they do and what their roles are in their teams. But it is also, we have to understand that also we have to give some organization to it. But I don't want anyone to feel like they're not leaders or they can't be leaders. It really is just about how much you do and how you're perceived without saying I'm this or I'm that. So if anybody wants to add to that, I think that is my understanding of the way we should, it should be, or at least that's what we're trying to help people understand.
I completely agree. And I've seen people come into Slack several times and ask who is the lead developer. There is no lead developer. There are many developers and they're working on a lot of different things, but nobody is the lead. And that just goes to, you know, our core value of distribution. We are a distributed community and we do everything in a distributed fashion. We have a lot of groups that communicate among themselves and they're all equal. And no one person has a voice louder than anybody else. And I think it's very important. I think to me that excites me because, you know, if one person leaves, the community is still stable, and that's very important to me.
Yep, totally agree. So do you want to start? Have we got any other points you want to ask? Anything else you want to bring up? Or do you want to move on to community questions now?
Questions would be good.
Yep. Okay, so has anyone got any questions in chat? Just ask away and we'll try and do our best to answer them. Are we against pumping of BTCZ? I'd say yes.
I mean, I think the question is, yeah, I mean, the answer with the question is pumping viewed as anything good in any coin?
Okay. Is it going to benefit us in the long term?
Call me a noob. What is pumping?
Pumping is when, let's say, a group of people with a lot of money go to a coin and they then invest loads of money into it, and they'll go on all these different places saying, look at this brilliant coin, you should buy it. And then they'll dump it when the price is up, so they'll just sell loads of it so they make money, sort of. So it's not healthy organic growth. It's basically it's losing people money basically, and it's not great for the coin, and it's going to bring the coin a bad rep as well. So we prefer people not to pump and dump the coin. By all means invest, but don't pump and dump, please.
Completely agree.
Someone asked, do we have an ETA on when the foundation of the coin will be stabilized? I think the foundation, as far as the network and the blockchain and the wallets that are core to the blockchain, all that is stable because it relies on so many different nodes that are running, and I think there's over 300 nodes that are running according to the stats on the Explorer. But what we mean by further being able to engage in marketing is that we need to further explain the use cases that we're going to have and to make sure that everything works, so that we have support issues going on, and if there's too many, we don't want to broadcast that, bring new people on, and then there's all these problems. So that's what we mean about that. It's not a foundational issue. I think it's about a usability issue, in my opinion. So if marketing or anyone wants to add on the perception of that.
Yep. I think we're looking at, someone asked what our roadmap's going to be for adding exchanges and other things. I think we are going to be working on a new roadmap, I believe, on the new websites and sorting everything out in that regard. So if you just pay attention to the Slack, we'll be releasing updates, and then we'll have a proper roadmap out very soon.
Somebody asked if we're working on adding more exchanges. Yes and no. We're constantly looking at different exchanges to see what they're charging, and whether we have enough to pay for it. But at the immediate moment, not really. We're not planning to add any at this point. The plan is to, once we release more features and we give people something to want BTCZ for, then we'll work on adding an exchange, and we'll probably send out a vote, call for a vote for people to select the exchange that they'd prefer for us to go on. But going on another exchange requires that we have funding. I don't think there's any exchange that will do free listings. And while they say they do free listings, money helps get on that exchange. So please donate. Once we have enough money that we can actually pay for some of these exchanges, like I think Cryptopia is over 4 BTC is what they require for listing. And then several exchanges require a yearly fee. So we definitely need a lot of donations to be able to get on exchanges. And even though we're not immediately pursuing it, we don't have enough in funding right now to be able to pay for any exchanges.
I want to add to that we do have different donation addresses. We have Zcash, Bitcoin, and I think Ethereum as well, in addition to BitcoinZ. So those obviously have carry more weight at the moment, and if that makes sense, because one thing, the exchanges use Bitcoin that I know of mostly for listing fees. So it is helpful to understand that there are other ways to donate other than BitcoinZ. Because if we focus on BitcoinZ, also, I guess the market can react in a certain way that we may not want. So I also will say that there was an idea brought to my attention that maybe we could, maybe sell some BitcoinZ over the counter to people that not necessarily is on an exchange, but of course, all these types of decisions, especially because it involves money from the community or funds, they all have to go to a vote, and a vote that lasts long enough so that most people can vote on it, or a reasonable amount of people can vote on it.
For sure. And to answer some quickfire questions here, people are asking, are there going to be tutorials on how to make a mining pool, how to join mining pools and give good donations, and how to compile wallets and stuff like that? Yes, there are going to be tutorials. We're going to have a community website set up soon, and it's going into beta today, I believe. So we'll have that information very soon. And then another question, when would we have a roadmap with deadlines attached to it? Like I said, hopefully in the next week or so, we'll be able to sort that out and work that out. But it's down to community suggestions. So the roadmap is flexible. So if somebody comes up with a really good idea and we can start developing it and actually does really well, then we may have to edit the roadmap in that respect. But we will have a basic bare bones roadmap, I believe, in the near week or so. Go ahead.
So I want to point out also that early on, the dates and attaching dates to roadmaps, we have felt, and most people have felt, that the dates can be used against the project, and we're not about setting a solid date. And I know that us as just humans, we need certainty. But if there are dates left out on certain things, it's not because we're not gonna do it. It's because it takes a lot more effort than some people may realize, even myself. So we don't want dates to be used against us, because we're about progression, organic growth, and use cases and value in the coin, rather than, oh, they didn't meet this date, so I'm going to dump it. It doesn't make sense to a project like this or a community like this. A community this large and that has such a reach, that type of stuff doesn't make sense. But that's my opinion. That's not everyone's opinion. So I think if we get some discussion around those types of things, it would be very beneficial.
I completely agree. And to add on to that, all these people that are working on the various projects for BitcoinZ are all volunteers. We're donating our time. We're not getting paid in any way, and life happens. things happen that will cause us to be gone for a few days. And if I'm one of 2 or 3 people working on a project, that could really delay it. And we're not getting paid to do this stuff. So while I personally have a drive to help in any way I can, if something happens in real life and requires my full attention, I have to take care of it. So it's important to remember that this is a community of volunteers, that nobody's getting paid for this. And for that reason is why I think, it doesn't make sense to set deadlines, exact date deadlines.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And the other thing, as you mentioned, the diversity of the community, not only are we all over the world, but there's all ages and people of both genders, etc. So be respectful in the community chats, try to stick on topic. Suggestions are always open, but as we had earlier today, we had some divulsion into quite a few, in some countries, illegal topics. And then lastly, some people, for example, who are at uni will have exams. So they could be away for a couple of weeks at a time. Doesn't mean they're gone, doesn't mean they've abandoned. So try not to spread rumors as well. Only spread information that's validated by other people in the community.
Yep. Did we miss any questions on either side? I don't see any.
Yeah, I'm looking down. It looks just like people are just having a conversation. Thank you for the donation, Victoria Bowen. Like I said, keep coming ideas, keep sending ideas in, guys. How is this team different than other teams who have created altcoins? Somebody want to take that question?
Let me start that with, this is a community. You see a lot of ICOs out there that are companies, and they're looking to make profit immediately, and they're trying to start a business out of it, and that's great. And sometimes that works really well. But for BTCZ, it's purely community. Nobody makes profit off the community. And that to me is, I see a lot of that in Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that's allowed Bitcoin to become so popular, because nobody owns it, nobody runs it, nobody manages it. It's just the community as a whole. And there's much more people out there than one company can have. And because of that, the coin will survive no matter what. No matter what's thrown at it, somebody will be able to pick it up and continue the work. And so that to me is what makes it really strong. And that's the first thing that I fell in love with, is the fact that, it's distributed. It's just the people. So that's my view on it.
I mean, obviously, that's exactly my feeling as well. Joining it was because it was, it meant it tries to add value based on community, and not, like we're talking about, pump and dumping. We're not about that. We're about adding value globally, and we're about some form of freedom to use the coin and to be able to exchange some store of value, to understand that if you invest now, that way later on down the line, you'll still have those same coins available to you or to your family, so to speak. So I think a lot of those core values are really the foundation that I feel are different. We work hard to try and identify people that have the same views, or hopefully have most of the same views, that are willing to contribute, so that we can keep carrying that vision forward. And I think a lot of it has to do with how people are naturally attracted to it because of these views. I've heard a lot of people say that, including myself, that say we were attracted because of the vision and the founding principles of the coin. So I think I hear a lot of that more so than I hear it because, it's going to be X amount of, price, so on and so forth. It's more about they feel good about contributing to a community that's that is that distributed.
And that's something to really hold on to, is the fact that, this is global. It's not a company in the United States that's looking for US dollars for profit or anything like that. This is, every country in the world can get involved with, you know, BTCZ, and it's something to look forward to. As personally, and this is completely my personal view, I see the currencies of different countries, you know, as they inflate, they will become less valuable, and people will look for other currencies to adopt. And we're here as a global currency, much like BTC, for people to adopt. But unlike BTC, we have faster transactions. We have all the things that Zcash, you know, the benefits of Zcash and the privacy and all these different things. So I think this puts us in a really good spot to, you know, to be adopted by so many people around the world.
Yeah, to add on to that, you often have people in the space, crypto space, asking what gives this coin value. Not only I believe that it's the community that gives it value and the things and the projects we're coming up with, but also, like you mentioned, we live in a world where we've got 1.2 trillion US dollars in circulation. Yet the US economy and the US as itself is like $19 trillion in debt. Now, okay, there's no one going to come knocking on the door of the US asking for that money to be paid back, but it still sort of shows that we need other stores of value that aren't just country-based, that aren't just single state currencies that are used then by other states if they're going through hyperinflation. So it could end up where, if we have another financial crisis, the dollar loses value, pound loses value, euro loses value. We're all very sort of on the edge of that happening in our current day, in my opinion.
Agreed.
One beautiful thing about this coin so far is the fact that all of those who are currently active in development and all these different things, that they care about giving.
Yes.
I don't think I've heard anybody here talk about making a profit of any sort. Personally, I run a pool, and that's where my profit is, even though the pool doesn't make a profit. Small pools generally actually lose money until they get big.
Right.
But you know, I don't care if the pool succeeds or not. I'm invested in the community more than anything. I started the pool because I couldn't mine BTCZ when I first got into it a week after launch. And so that's what is strong to me, is that everybody who gives, they only care about giving. And so, you know, if you're that kind of person that wants to give to a community, well, this is a community that's more than willing to take, you know, whatever you can give. And there's a lot of satisfaction to be had by that. So definitely, we're always looking for people who are willing to give their time or ideas or anything of that sort.
Joe Hall asked about after a few months seeing the progression, a voting should be held for main community representatives. Could that work for us? I'm hesitant to say that that people should be appointed to those positions. I think, as I mentioned earlier, my position is, or my opinion is, that it really how involved you are in what you do and how much you do for the community. I think that automatically almost helps the perception that you are taking a lead and doing something. I think that the decentralized nature that we're trying to accomplish here involves many different people being involved. And just, again, the amount of effort that you put in, I think you automatically, I hate to say it, but it almost seems like you elevate yourself into a lead, so to speak, position. So I don't know if voting leads in, like, whatever would work now. I don't know. Things can always change. I'm never about concrete statements, so maybe it could work. That's my opinion on it.
Personally, I'm against representation. I'm all for, you know, everybody having a voice.
Right.
In the United States, we have this not so wonderful thing called Electoral College, and that's the reason why we have Trump. So I don't want to see anything like that with, you know, the BitcoinZ community.
Agreed.
All right. So someone keeps bringing up this Victoria Bowen. She asks, maybe we should help with scientific research like Gridcoin. I'm not sure what you mean by that in what regard and how we could help. Has anyone got any suggestions on that, or it just seems like a bit of a weird question to ask?
Help in this scientific community in what way?
In research or something. She's just in research. I'm not sure what's meant by that at all. It's been asked like 3 or 4 times now. We don't know what you mean by that. I think our sole idea is to be a store of value and a currency that can be used as an everyday thing. So you're in the coffee shop and you can pay for your coffee just as you pull your phone out, and you can do contactless. We want to be able to have that sort of technology implemented for us, that we can do that, so that our coin can replace or work alongside fiat that's out now. That's my vision anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to begin with that, but we encourage a discussion or further, to elaborate on something like that and how we can go about doing that.
For sure. If we could help them with transactions, I guess we could do that, but if they we can't exactly transact information more efficiently than Slack itself, for example. So I'm not sure what you mean by that, sorry.
All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I think we've covered a lot of subjects. We'll look at doing this again. I don't know how soon, but we'll post announcements on Facebook, Twitter, the Bitcoin Talk thread, and Slack.
Yeah, some people are asking if it could be done weekly or bi-weekly, but like I said, it depends on if everyone can be here and sort of what commitments are. So
Yep.
I think that's all for today. Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody who contributed to the chat and everybody who's here talking. If you have any questions, yeah, definitely move it to Slack. The discussion never dies, so we're always there to talk with people. And on that note, please note that this is a global community, so anytime you get into Slack or Discord or whatever, there's probably always somebody online, and we're always there. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you for the community as well.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. All right.